Morning, guys. I will try to find the most comfortable place to talk. So this was also news to me, kind of interesting. I think it actually works. I feel pretty at home right now. So this should be the other way around, but can you read it this way? No worries. You have 20 minutes to figure it out. So I will start shortly that when I was first approached about talking at the Creative Mornings, then I have to say that I was definitely surprised, because I'm sure that, you know, probably all of you would qualify just as well to be here. And same time, I decided that no, I'll do it. That's okay. We'll step out of the comfort zone and go and talk. So I really hope it's not going to be too boring for you guys, because I will honestly say that I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. There are two reasons. I have two little kids, so I don't have time to make a PowerPoint presentation. And secondly, I don't like to be framed into any frames. So I pretty much shoot from the hip most of the time when I talk. So if you have any questions at any point, raise your hand. I'm happy to answer. It's not like you're going to be interrupting some major thought process at that point. Why I put up this Rumi quote, seek passion, seek passion, seek passion. It actually came from when the girls came over to interview me, and they asked what's my favorite quote. And the trouble with that is that I actually love quotes. I've been gathering them for like 25 years, I think. And I have a whole collection that's called Inspired, that is based on quotes that I like and so on. So I had a bit of trouble trying to pick what is exactly my favorite quote. And then I remembered that this is probably the one that has been sort of on my desk and on my Facebook, I think even, and on different spaces where I have it in front of me. And the actual quote is longer, but I particularly like the last line. And the reason for it is that I believe that if people really focus on what's their passion, then it's very easy to become a pioneer, because every decision you make, everything you're going to be creating or doing is coming from the core. So it's going to be original. I mean, there's nobody else like you. So it's not hard to be pioneer if you know what your passion is. I think the hard part is figuring out what the passion is. At least it took me over 30 years to figure out what I want to do. And I don't think it's unusual. I think most people are not lucky enough to be born with knowing what's their favorite thing in the world to do and what they want to be spending most of their time with. So this seek passion thing, where it started for me was that, maybe I'll give a little bit of a background. So why is it kind of unusual that I'm in the jewelry as I am? I was brought up in a very much tennis sports family. Meaning my grandfather was already in it, and my mom's a coach, and everybody played tennis. And so I was very much put into the frame of mind that if I ever had any dreams, they should be about Wimbledon, basically. And that's about it. Or maybe US Open. On the other hand, what it did teach me, this kind of competitive sports, was to have drive and to be able to push myself, even if you're tired, and probably to really, really try hard for whatever goal I set. But it took me, like I said, like, you know, I was 31, I think, when I discovered jewelry for myself. By then, I was very certain I'm not creative. I am a sports girl who is a bit of a tomboy. I had some jewelry. I had never been huge on, you know, owning jewelry or having it or whatnot. I had lived about 7 years in States, and I traveled a lot. And so I had this whole thing that I had picked out some pieces here and there that were really me, that, you know, I didn't have many things, but they were very part of me, or they exactly describe what I liked. And then when I was 30, one Christmas, all my jewelry got stolen. It was 2 days before Christmas, I think. And then I suddenly discovered, and at the time I was living in London, and I discovered two things. First, that I have expensive taste. Which meant that I couldn't go and just buy everything that I needed right away. Secondly, I discovered that I have metal allergy, which means I no way could buy anything cheap. And third, I understood that I kind of did have my own specific style I liked. But that didn't cause me to make anything, because, like I said, I haven't never ever been into handicraft stuff. So I don't know, how many of you are Estonians here? Okay, some. Now I have to ask, okay, so how many of you were from the generation when in school girls had to learn to knit and cook? Oh, yay, me too. So, and the boys had their like wood workshop or whatever, you know. I never ever actually knitted myself anything. I had mom and grandma do it because I really, really didn't like it. So I really was brought up knowing that it's not something, this kind of handy thing is not my thing. Nobody had told me like, oh, you're super creative, like go for something creative. I had never studied art. So basically there was zero indication that I should go into anything creative, especially that, you know, you make with hands. But as there are kind of lucky coincidences, and I think that the people around us really can be sort of one part of the things that push you to do something. And the other part for me was that at the time when this jewelry got stolen and this and that, and basically I was not in the greatest place in my life. I had moved to London because of a relationship. Really bad decision to do anything like this because it didn't work out, obviously. So I was kind of at crossroads. I was thinking, I don't want to go back to Tallinn again and start over again. I was really lost in a way. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of knew I didn't want to be where I was at that time anyhow. So I finally met up with two of my friends. One who is really into handicraft stuff, like really like making cards for Christmas to everybody and, you know, wrapping paper with all this especially cute stuff on it. And the other was an actual jeweler. And they took me kind of along and said, let's go, like, you know, let's go make some jewelry. Like, it'll be so much fun. And I actually still laugh with them because I said, oh, I don't think I'm going to like it, but no, fine, I'll come along. You know, I have nothing better to do right now. So we went there. They showed me the very, very basics of it. And I sat down, and the first thing I realized was that I actually like stones because of the texture and the colors. And then I basically, for 5 hours, didn't talk to them. They offered me food and drink and wine, and I said no, because I suddenly discovered that I really enjoyed the process of it, that I first time in those months forgot about all the things that were worrying me or stressing me, and I really enjoyed just the creative process, just making something. I don't know if it was, you know, some say color therapy or whatnot, it was, I don't really know, but I suddenly found that, oh, there's something I like to do that I've never ever done before. The next thing came was I was like, well, but you know, maybe I could make myself the things that I really like because I know exactly what I'm looking for. And then I was lucky enough that because they were aware of, you know, where you can order the stones and so on and on and on, that they gave me all the details. And then I just started making things for myself. And my #1 rule was that if anybody approaches me and says, oh, that's so cute, did you make it yourself? That then I'm going to stop. Because the things needed to look real and they had to look like as if they're from the shop. So nobody approached. I wasn't sure enough saying to anybody like, oh, look what I made. So finally, a friend of mine approached and said, oh, where did you get? I had this black obsidian claw always with me. Where did you get it? And my sister was the one who chirped, oh, she made it, you know. So that's how I started selling it. Basically, my friends and so on. And throughout all this, what I have kept actually was, I don't know if you read the interview or not, probably not, but I kept working on the site for quite some years and just trying out the idea. And one of the reasons was actually that I never wanted it to be a must that I have to sell it or, you know, I don't know, I have to pay rent, so I have to sell X amount of jewelry. It was always about keeping the fun and joy of the actual making of it. And I think that best things come when you actually don't have this restriction of kind of, you know, it has to make money. So you actually end up doing the things you are really, really genuinely enjoying. And I always had this saying that if nobody else likes it, I make the stuff I like, so I'll just wear it, so it's okay. And it seemed to work, and it took off really fast. And when I moved back to Estonia, that was my next big thing. And I think when you get into your sort of the environment where you're very much boxed in by all the people that know you, and Estonia is small, so, you know, pretty much everybody knows everybody. And I was in this box of this, you know, sports person, not creative, all this stuff, never ever gone to art school, you know. And we have you know, a ton of amazing jewelry artists in Estonia. So when I was moving here, I was really kind of thinking, I don't know if I should do it. Like, you know, what are the people going to say? And like, what's the reaction? And, you know, who am I to do it? And finally, my sister kind of said that, you know, why don't you just go for it? Just do it, like, you know. And I think it took one person, basically, to say, go for it. And I realized that, you know, it's a small shift in the thinking, basically, to understand that, yes, there are the reactions, and you're still going to see them, but that you don't put too much importance on it. And I think it's really, really important that if you want to do anything new or something that challenges you, that you are aware that there's going to be reactions to it, and you listen to it, because sometimes the feedback is really, really good, and it helps you to move forward. And sometimes it's just crap, you know. And then you're able to kind of let that part go, and you keep listening to yourself in sort of this passion thing, that you come back to it and you figure, okay, so what is it that, you know, I really, really want to do today, basically, or in a week, or in 5 years. And that's how my business plan came about. I started thinking, okay, what do I want to do in 5 years? And I realized that this is actually kind of what I really, really want to do, because I enjoyed it immensely. And again, we got to this point where I think whenever you do something new, you're taking the challenge that you're kind of stepping into this unknown territory. And yes, you can research it, and I think you should. But if I say honestly, then there's so much information out there that most of my decisions I anyhow made on the gut, kind of just, you have to make the decision so fast that, you know, big part of it is just kind of like, oh, but I think I should go for it. I think it's going to be all right. And then I finally, the big sort of jump for me was when I stopped doing the real job. I remember my mom, I think, was telling my dad, at that point I had, for 2 years, sort of, you know, I knew I had clients, but I didn't know if it was like going to be big enough to actually do this for a living. Dad was saying, oh, so what's Kriss doing? You know, what's her plan, kind of? And Mom said, oh, she's going to be doing jewelry. And Dad said, some plastic shit? I'm sorry, am I allowed to use that word? But he said that. So you see, like, it wasn't exactly that you have this rah group around you who tells you, like, oh, yeah, go for it. It's going to be great. And I still believe that if you truly, truly enjoy it, then it's worth going for it. And everybody else comes around eventually. And I mean, he doesn't say that anymore. He's actually said really lovely things about it, and it's completely changed. But it wasn't that somebody around me had to say it. It was more that I had to say that this is what I want to do. And then kind of everything else shifted. So I think about, you know, when we're talking pioneers, because at first I was kind of daunted by it. I was like, oh my God, I'm not like, you know, Columbus, or I don't know, you know, it's not like life-changing. And then I actually remembered with Columbus, you know, he just had better marketing, basically. That he wasn't really the first one either, but so that's a big lesson for me, you know, you gotta market yourself, obviously. Hence I'm up here. So when I got into this pioneer thinking, I realized that it's not only kind of one thing. I think probably, I'm sure all of you are doing something that nobody else has done before. And you're all creatives, right? How many of you were told as kids that you're super creative, go for it? Nobody? Oh, one. Oh, God. Oh, good. Okay. Some people at least. So did that make a big difference for you? Was it easier? No? Oh, good to know. But yeah, so I think that all of us are pioneers, but it takes probably this focusing of figuring out what it is that we are truly passionate about. And for me, when I was walking here this morning through this horrible slush, because my car still has summer tires, I was thinking, okay, so what's driving me out of bed this early that, you know, my 9-month-old is still sleeping. So I'm out, I'm walking somewhere, why am I doing it? And I realized that, yes, one is the passion kind of to share the story. One is the passion, actually, I love meeting new people. Then I have to admit that I think anybody who is willing to do this kind of thing, they kind of enjoy the attention. So it's nice that you guys are all here. And there's actually several passions that are driving me to do every day the things that I'm doing. And my job has been so far to every now and then step back and focus, is this still what I want to do? And currently it still is what I want to do. And you were guys supposed to show me when 20 minutes is over, right? It's not yet. Okay, good. So that's why this particular saying, I think, is the driving force for me, why I'm doing the things I'm doing. And now we get to the next part. So the good news is that if you're a pioneer and you've done some research, but you haven't been brought up in this kind of environment, so meaning I didn't go to art school, nobody showed me that this is how you make jewelry, basically. I would Google it sometimes. Some of it I would just logically think up myself, because I would look at stuff and go, whoa, seems logical that you put it like this together. And the good thing about that is that if nobody has shown you that this is the only right way, you sometimes come up with things that nobody has done before. So it's good to just try out stuff. And here we get to the thing that if you ever do come up with something that is new, I will say, because that was my big learning curve, you should try to protect it, actually. Because, like I said, you know, otherwise it's whoever shouts it louder is going to be the one who's going to be credited for it. And I think with any kind of creative idea or creative product, and I've seen it in Estonia especially, somehow it's considered okay to be copied, for example. And I have this question, we discussed that, was it you who was going to read the book about the two, you, yes? And I found it very interesting that there's two views, two professors arguing, and one of them was saying that the only way basically to go forward is copy somebody else's stuff, just make it, you know, better, cheaper, whatever, that's what works. And the other was saying that no, what really drives is the new ideas and something new coming up. So my point, obviously, guess what? I think that without the pioneers and new stuff, there's soon nothing to be copied. You know, I mean, how much can you improve on the same stuff? So I think there should be some sort of incentive also for people to go for it, to try the new thing, because that's what takes effort and time and sweat and tears and all of that stuff. And if it's too much preached, sort of, that don't even try it, basically look what's working and just try to make it better, cheaper, whatnot, then I think it gets only to the point that you do start to just think about how much money can I make with it. For me, that's no fun. I mean, money's nice, but I wouldn't want to sort of start my creative process only by thinking about that. So when I came up with this one product, I found out that you can actually protect, and in jewelry, it's why I'm talking about it is because it's very unusual, because generally when you think of how a thing is put together, it's pretty much same. So you cannot actually protect it, it's just you doing it with certain colors, certain things. You can only protect like things that so technically haven't been done before. And when I came up with that product, at first I wasn't aware that, you know, you should kind of protect whatever the logo or brand name, or I didn't even have branding on all my products. Until, again, I think it was American, obviously it had to be, they are super into branding, you know. And she came in and she kind of said, whoa, how come you don't have branding on each product that you're selling? That was big for me, so I changed that quickly. And then the next step was actually that I went and I got sort of protected 2 of the designs, because the rest kind of, they said right away that you cannot technically basically protect them. And when we did this protection thing, then the next thing came up, that you discover that it doesn't matter that it's protected, there are going to be people that are going to copy it. And a lot what you hear is take it as a compliment. And I think there's only so much you can take as a compliment until you start going, well, it's not really that nice anymore. And this is where I discovered that, yes, it's important to keep generating new ideas, to push into that. But at the same time, I had to start actually focusing on things like, you know, legal stuff. And then when I hired more people, you know, having all kinds of new rules in place. And I think what I still discovered about all of this is that as the process evolved, I am actually doing less of making the things now. I still make all the new things because that's what I like. But suddenly I found the creativity or the pioneering part of, you know, how do I run a company? I hadn't, you know, how do you grow it? What does it take? I had never worked actually in an office, so I'm not aware of how the office politics even works, thank God. So I've been very much into kind of doing my own thing, but because of it, again, I don't have exact systems in place. What I do now is I'm trying to research it again, but I'm hoping that I'll come up with maybe something new and creative. I do have currently all women working for me, and they all have little kids, so we have a very flexible work environment. So I'm trying to sort of figure out how to make that part work as well. And what it brings me back again is, so why do I bother with it, is because when I go into the studio, I love it. And I love being around the people that are there with me, and I love actually sharing now the dreams or the goals I have. I guess the main thing that I looked for the people that worked with me was to have kind of any kind of passion. It would be great if it's something similar to mine. I think that if we really, really, really all start doing what's just passionate and what's wonderful for us, then I think people would be a whole lot happier even in November in Estonia, which is tough. So I will leave you with this same quote: seek passion, seek passion, seek passion, and good things happen. Thanks, guys. So, any questions? Oops.
One. Yep.
During the interview, you said that you had a really real job, and you quitted that because your business was growing. And questions: was it difficult, and what stage you dare take a decision to do only your jewelry business?
Well, partially it was I did some calculations and I was kind of like, I should be all right. But part of it was that you only have so many hours in the day. And I really realized that the real job I was doing, like I said, I was from tennis family. So since my grandfather was a coach, my mom was a coach, I've coached. So I was coaching tennis. And I just felt like I was so empty, and I so did not want to tell another person about the forehand again, you know. Like, you know, all the same talk over and over. And I just felt that when I went sort of to do the real job, I was really tired really fast. It sort of really drained me. And then at 2 a.m. making jewelry, I suddenly wasn't tired anymore. And I think it was kind of, it just dawned on me that, you know, do I want to spend most of my day being drained and tired, or do I actually want to enjoy what I'm doing? And then it was just a big kind of like, and my stomach kind of gets in a knot every time I take those decisions that are not guaranteed to work out. But I think it's a must, because every time you take this kind of leap in a way, it gets a little easier. And every next time, because they still come up, these kind of, for me, big decisions, you know. And I normally go for it. So far, it's all worked out. Fingers crossed. And yeah, it gets easier. And I think that's kind of also the beauty of it. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me kind of, you know, fresh about it all. So, did that answer it? Yeah.
We have two. I see two hands. I will give here and then.
So thank you for the interesting speech. And my question is, how big is your team, and when did you start taking on people?
My team currently is 6 people, but I also have on certain aspects I would have, like, you know, like very sort of, they're not working for me, but it's always the same people. So in that sense, I consider them the team as well. But 6 is like who are directly every day working with me. I started actually out of necessity. I'm a bit of a control freak. So at first I was doing, you know, as much as I could myself. And then this wonderful thing happens with women that they sometimes start having kids. And the kids really push you out of the comfort zone. Because I wasn't ready really to give up control, but I think it was the most amazing teaching I got was like, you know, how to trust actually other people, how to let go, how to manage them. And in large part it was because I had to. So yeah, I blame my kids for it.
Thank you for your presentation. How were you able to start selling, how to say, big? Because I understand, I can imagine how to create jewelry, how to sell like five of her friends, but to start selling bigger quantities, shops want maybe 50% of the cut, and how do you make this step? How did you make it?
Well, the good news is that I moved back to Estonia. In Estonia, I think it's much, much easier to actually be seen. It's easier to meet the right people. If I would have stayed in London, I think it would have taken me a lot longer. Because in Estonia, basically what I did was I knew that I had to get to TV a bit, certain, you know, basically have certain people be seen in my pieces. And then I used a lot of social media. That was one part of the puzzle. And I got to know all the fashion magazine people and so on. And then the second part was actually exactly this, that I put myself in the situation where I didn't have to sell it to anybody. So at first I would get this, that, you know, a shop would come to me and they'd say, we want it only on realization and we're only willing to pay you this much. And then I said, no thanks. So basically because a lot of people were telling me that at the time in Estonia, I don't know how it is elsewhere, but a lot of the creative people or artists were not in charge of their pricing, that it was actually the retailers that were telling them, we're only paying you then, we're only paying you this much. So for me, the way to get out of it was that I worked and I made the money on the side so that nobody could tell me what my things are worth. So I set the price. And it took some time, and you'd go, like I would go at first a lot more to these direct sales events. I would do events with different clubs, you know, we have these wonderful things as Women's Cognac Club, Women's Champagne Club. By the way, alcohol is a wonderful thing if you want to do sales. I would just be there, sell it directly more, and I would kind of wait. I would keep offering it to the shops, but not on their terms. And then came a point where when they are seen enough on the right people and they see that, yes, it is selling actually, they suddenly agreed. So, and it didn't take that long. I think it was more that I had to just show them that it makes sense for them to buy it out with a wholesale price instead of, you know, try to tell me what they want to do with it. And I would then in turn like tell them basically how to sell my things. But yeah, I think that was in Estonia at least. That was the main thing, that I just told them that, no, this is how it is, and you either want it or not. I'm sorry, was it helpful? I understand the process, yes. Yeah. But, and then it went probably, when I'm thinking bigger terms, it's the same. Like there would be some shops. I'm not very good at actually approaching, for example, like Kaubamaja is selling it or something. So I'm not really the one to go and show and be like, can you please buy it from me? They all ended up coming to me. And normally how it's worked for me is that, again, they saw it on somebody. And then they kind of looked me up and they found me. And when I'm talking internationally how I've been growing, it's the same, that I normally have somebody who already loves my pieces, that they've been a client first. And I actually believe that in order not to sort of jump over my own head, kind of, I go quite slow and small at first. And I have found that with my brand at least, I really need somebody there in the market to make sure that the things are the right way. and who's there to converse. So, plus I'm not looking really, it's not a, I'm not competing with Chinese stuff anyhow, so I mostly go for boutiques, lifestyle boutiques, and so on. And probably the third one that internationally was the biggest was when I started really working at my social media stuff. That's what's worked for me. That's how they found me, and it's gone forward.
Mm-hmm. One more question.
You already answered part of my question, but still, do you only sell online, or you have your own
from
store?
the beginning I actually had a web shop. So I had from beginning a brand because, because I have a marketing background, so it seemed very normal for me to just have a story that goes with everything. And then also probably same time as I started thinking of packaging, I started building the website. So, and slowly as I had more finances, I would try to make it better. And I'm still in the process. I'm still trying to make it better. So
how much of a hassle is it to keep the e-commerce solution?
So, sorry, say again?
How much of a hassle is it to
update? It's not hassle. It's actually now my main priority. I like all of that stuff, you know. I like social media. I like the visual part of it. And yeah, it takes time. And what I've discovered is that, you know, I myself can maybe do 2 channels. So whenever I can, I try to get somebody else on board who helps me even more with it, because it is time consuming to do all of it. But it's totally worth it. But I have a long way to go. I mean, that's what I'm saying, that web shop, I think it needs even more improving, and the whole social media could be used even more and so on. But that's the next big thing for me, yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So more questions? Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your story. My question is related to this last one. It's more specific. As I remember, some years ago, you had advertisements in women magazines in Estonia also, but now I haven't seen them. Is it so that everyone knows you, you don't need this channel, or you just move to the social media and it's not your priority?
Nowadays, they use actually quite a bit, like in their own sort of either like fashion stories or something like this, our pieces already. I don't think I've ever taken out like a page as an advertising in the magazine. Probably I don't push it as much myself. In the beginning, wherever it was kind of featured, I would really, even in social media, kind of make it louder. So now in terms of Estonia market, yeah, I think majority of Estonians kind of already have heard of it. At least the ones who are sort of my sort of group then, or who I'm geared towards. And because, partially also because I'm trying to grow more internationally, so there's only so much time in the day, so I have to make choices. So I probably, in Estonian terms, I think it's enough in the magazines that I'm not completely gone, and it's in TV, and here and there I would post stuff. But I am currently more sort of focused on the international stuff. So yeah, probably you're right. Maybe I need to do it more.
Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We still have time, mm-hmm. So you can think more of questions.
So far, it seems like everything has gone the way you wanted it to go. But like, was there anything that didn't really work out, and how did you cope with failure in your lifetime?
Oh my gosh, did it really sound so rosy? It hasn't been so rosy. No, not everything has worked out as well, in big picture as I planned, but I think I'm pretty flexible with my planning as well. Some of the things that haven't worked out as I planned, I didn't think I had to, for example, deal as much as I did with the legal stuff. I honestly, when I started, I didn't even think about it. Now it's something that I have learned that you should focus on pretty early on. I wasn't expecting it. what else has been sort of... people management is new for me, you know. I'm used to, like I said, I'm a mini control freak kind of person. So every now and then I still have this learning curve, kind of, you know, how to manage a team. Because it's not that you couldn't manage it, but I guess right way is to say, I would like it to be so that they are as motivated as I am. And that's kind of something that I sometimes get right, and sometimes I understand that actually I need to learn to express myself better, to really sort of make them understand my point of view. What else has been difficult? There's not enough hours in the day. Never, ever. I don't remember going to bed and thinking, oh, I got everything done today. Also, for me, being mom is super challenging. Super challenging. And kind of fitting it all together, because my kids are 2.5 and 8.5 months, so 2.5 years and 8.5 months, so they're really small. And I think this is a very common thing, that when you're doing something, you know, it took my husband some time to understand, because I pretty much wanted to get back to work, you know, month after I think I got home with a baby, sort of was home with a baby. And not back to studio per se, but I wanted to be doing things, and it gave me actually energy, and it's something that brought me kind of this, my thing, you know. And I was kind of going to the studio and wanting to go, and he's like, you know, I don't understand you, why you want to go to work all the time? And I was like, it's not work. and that's, I guess, the big thing, what I meant by this passion thing is, like, I do feel that's the part that I'm very lucky with, that I get to do something that doesn't feel like work. And most of the time, I get to do it with people I enjoy working with. That's the next big thing. Sometimes, you know, people are tricky. So there have been, you know, some things there where maybe I've been hurt a bit. But that happens in any kind of job, I think. And I guess the biggest thing is sort of to kind of get up and dust yourself off and remind yourself of the bigger things that I'm going for. Definitely one being that I really, really, really enjoy being the master of my own life. And I think if we're not the pioneers in our own life, then, you know, where else can we be pioneers? So I really think that taking full responsibility about sort of when I look back on my life, that, you know, did I get to do it the way I wanted to, is a really big thing for me. Hence the kids is challenging. So no, it's like, I think as in with any job, you know, sometimes it's the people's thing, sometimes it's, you take a task and you kind of didn't really research it enough, because lately that's the thing that with time, there's not enough time to really sort of read up or research it, and I make this gut decision, and in the big picture it works out, but maybe there were some things that I would have wanted to be even more perfect. But I'm working on it. It's good that it's not perfect yet. I mean, thank you. Yeah.
So we have time for one more question, if we have. Okay. So it will be the last one.
Hello.
Hi.
The question is, how much of your working time are you still creating jewelry compared to like business activities, like managing and marketing and stuff?
It's a lot less than it used to be. Yeah, I think percentage-wise, I can tell you it's probably about 15% of my time I get to do something that's like creating new stuff. The good thing is I really like marketing. So for me, that's also a creative process. You know, coming up with the visuals, I like photo shoots, I like thinking of my Instagram feeds and so on. So it still feeds into my creative side. But I think the important thing for me is that I get to dream up the new things. And this is something you need a team for, because that's how the team in a way started growing, was because at some point you get where you have to make so many pieces of the same thing that basically time-wise you can't do it. And also, for me, that's not creative anymore if I just keep repeating, you know. But I'm thinking, it sounds like not so much, but I don't somehow feel like I'm not getting enough creativity stuff. Hopefully it'll get better. As my kids get older, I can go to the sneak away to the studio more. But my favorite part is on Saturday to go in when we're closed. And I go in and I put my music on, and I usually have anywhere between an hour or 3 hours, depending how my day is. And I just take out all kinds of stones and materials, and I start trying. And that's like the equivalent of kids playing, you know, you're just kind of playing around, and it's great.